Good morning, Orchard family. It's so wonderful to see all of you. Let's stand up and let's start worshiping. Everyone needs compassion, a love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of the Savior, the hope of nations. 'Cause Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. All my fears and failures, fill my life again. I give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender. 'Cause Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. And Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Singing, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. And Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. And Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Thank you so much for coming. Why don't you say good morning to your neighbor, and then you may be seated.
Good morning. I just love seeing all of this, everyone making new friends and saying hi to their fellow Orchard family. My name is Jennifer. I live in Newcastle. I've been coming here for a few years, and as I said, one of my favorite parts is just seeing all of you guys here and making more family members within my little family. I also love that the Orchard always keeps the main thing, and that's Jesus Christ. And I just love hearing the sermons every single week. Today's a great one. I'm so glad you're here. If you're joining us online at 10 a.m., I think my mom is. Hi, Mom. I'm glad you're here. And we have in-person services every week at 8:30 and 10. If you'd like to know more of what's going on, you can go on to theorchardlife.com. And speaking of, we do have some things going on today, actually. Right after this service at 11 a.m., we've got our Sunday Family Fun Day with pizza, salad, games. It'll be out on the lawn. I heard the fire station will be there, spraying everybody with water. I'm just kidding, but hopefully not. But they will have a hose out there, I heard, so it'll be really fun. And then also this Thursday for young adults, not just here in the Orchard, but in the whole Valley, we have something called Rooted, and that goes on the third Thursday of every month. So again, Rooted is for young adults who want to just come and make new friends, meet each other in the Valley, and have just a nice worship service together, as well as dinner. So dinner is going to be at 5:30, and that worship service at 6:30. And again, that's this Thursday, the 18th. And as always, we do appreciate your support in helping to support the Orchard's vision of loving God and loving people. You can donate here in the offering boxes in the building, or online at theorchardlife.com or at the app. So with that said, again, it's really nice to meet you. I'm Jennifer. Come say hi to me, and we'll get ready to hear another amazing sermon and some worship. Thank you.
You can fly, you are love. Bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise, it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. You give life, you are love. You bring light to the darkness, you bring hope. Restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great
welcome to the Orchard. But go ahead and have a seat. If you're online, if you're on podcast, if you're joining us, I just want to talk about nicknames really quick. Turn to your neighbor and tell them a nickname that you have had in your life. Online, go ahead and put it in the chat. I want to know some nicknames. I just want to say, hey, hold on. Before these guys exit, hold on, come here. Before these guys exit, I'm a nickname guy. So this is E-Rock, that's Conan, Huey, Zachary, Shorty in Africa. I realized on stage, I realized I had given they each have a nickname in my life. I love giving nicknames. Anybody hear some really funny, inappropriate nicknames that you can tell me? Yeah? Who has a good nickname they can say? Yeah? Oh, everybody's all shy all of a sudden. Nicknames are interesting. Nicknames give us an insight into someone's life. Perhaps I have some nicknames from college that don't quite fit me as a pastor and vice versa. But nicknames give us insight, a little glimpse into a part of someone's life. And perhaps you have some nicknames that do that very same thing. Today we're in Genesis, and we've been in Genesis going through this series for a little while, and we're going to come to a very interesting place. I want to remind us that we are talking about Abram and Sarai. And if you're just joining us today in the building, or if you're joining us online, wherever you are, or on the podcast, we're working through Genesis, and we're in Genesis 17 today, looking at the life of Abram. God revealed himself to Abram and gave him promises. And I just want to go ahead and state something obvious that we lose track of. When God gives you a promise, consider it done. When God promises something, you can consider it completed. Abram has faith in God's promise. We know this. But Abraham loses trust in God's process. Let me say that again. Abraham has faith in God's promise, but he loses trust in God's process to get him there. Doesn't sound like any of us. We'll flesh it out and see what that means. Listen, it's been 25 years since Abram first heard from God that there was going to be this big promise in his life. He hears all these things, and then nothing happens. Still, when God promises something, consider it done. Abram and Sarai, they believe the promise, yet lose faith in the process, and they decide to help God be God. At Sarai's prompting, Abram marries his wife's servant. They have a child named Ishmael, and Abram loves Ishmael. And even though he learns that Ishmael, this oldest son of his, isn't the child of promise or blessing, he loves him and he wants good things for him. But that means the promise remains unfulfilled. The promise is not completed yet. And while the process of God is precisely on time. God has a promise for you and a purpose for you, and there's a process, and we feel like he's late. He's always on time. And while he's on time in Abram's life, listen, humanity, Abram and Sarai, you and me, we get impatient. It's like my kids in the car whenever we're going anywhere. Before I had kids, it was always a joke. Are we there yet? I thought that was a joke. Oh, it's a painful reality. And I always say, you'll know we get there when I tell you. That's not enough. And I always say 10 minutes, and they haven't figured out that it's always 10 minutes. It doesn't matter. Anytime we get impatient with the process, we short-circuit that process to reach the promise. And here's the truth. Anytime we short-circuit the process to get to the promise, we create problems. It's just always going to be true. God gives us promises out there. We short-circuit the process because it's taking too long, and it creates problems in our lives. In Genesis 17, after 25 years of waiting, God appears to Abram again. It's been decades since he first heard of this. Abraham is living on faith that, yes, God's ultimate promise and purposes will come true. It will happen. Now, God's about to show up and give Abram some more insight into the promise, more insight into Abram and who he is, and more insight into God and reveal himself to Abram in a new way. Now, when it comes to God's nature and the Old Testament, I want to say this. The Old Testament is an unfolding of God's revelation of who he is to his people. And as we're going to travel through the Old Testament, we're going to find new names new experiences as God continues to reveal who he is up to Jesus, the ultimate revelation of what he's like. The Old Testament is a revelation. We started in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created. We have this creator God who's outside of time, above everything, and he creates. He's vast. He's massive. He's all-knowing. He's all-powerful. He's creator. Then he creates Adam and Eve, and he comes down and has a relationship with them. And then we see this God who wants his people to walk faithfully and uprightly. And when they don't, through Noah, he changes everything. And now here we see with Abram, he does something new. He's revealing new parts of himself because he meets Abram and he gives him a personal promise and blessing. And he says that this blessing that he's going to give Abram will be for all people, if you remember that. Abram, I'm going to do something in your life that all people will be blessed by. All generations, all nations, all types, all people. And of course, he's talking about the son of redemption, the one to come. Now, for Abram and Sarai, they want this son of blessing to come to their life, and it takes a long time. So they do what none of us would ever do. They decide to help God with it. They create a son, but this son they create is neither the son of blessing or redemption. And remember, God is continually revealing his nature in the Old Testament. He was revealed last week, we talked about, with this name El Roi, the God who sees me. And if you're feeling like God is not aware or doesn't see your pain or where you are right now, I would encourage you to go check last week's message. Today, we're going to see that God is about to reveal himself to Abram and to us in a new way. Now, he's going to tell Abram a name for himself. Anytime God gives a name, kind of like those nicknames we talked about at the beginning, it's a glimpse into a new perspective of his nature. Now, in the Old Testament, God's going to reveal many names for himself, but it's not like we would view a name. It's not like Russell or Cortland or Susan or Victoria. Those are individual names for individual people. The names God has, they're individual names that reveal the same individual in unique ways. Think of a diamond. Think of a really big diamond. Some of you single women have been thinking about that for a long time. You can nudge somebody next